Hey friends, this is Christy with Little Roots Ranch, and happy April. Yesterday was the first day of April, and funny story, I was not realizing like the whole new, April Fool's Day joke thing, and so in one of my farmer groups, somebody was talking about using a disco ball to diffuse light for like in a greenhouse for young seedlings. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And so I wanted to read more on it. And then I realized at my expense that it was an April Fool's joke. But nonetheless, I realized that my greenhouse is missing a disco ball. So I am 100%, if I can come across a disco ball, I also don't know how much they cost, but I'm going to purchase one and put one in the greenhouse because that sounds fabulous. So all is not lost. But anyways, it's been a cold and windy and rainy start to April so far. And so that's why I'm filming inside with the backdrop of my beautiful seedlings because, I don't know, I think that makes for a good picture. But my hands are all sore. I've been working in the greenhouse today. And that actually brings me to today's video, which is things that you can direct sow in April. And so I thought I'd make kind of a quick video because there's another video I want to make in a couple weeks or maybe next week, I'm not sure, about things that you can start indoors at the end of April. And so that's going to be like your squashes, cucumbers, basil, things like that. If you have not started those, wait till the end of April. And I'll go more into depth later. But today's video is about things that you can direct sow outside, which honestly is really exciting for me. I like direct sowing outside. You're always going to have a healthier plant, which is amazing. It's going to be stronger. It's, all the things I always talk about outside. You have variations of light and wind and rain and hail sometimes, and hopefully no snow, of course, depending on where you're at. For me, I hope no more snow. But there are some drawbacks. So your germination is going to decrease a lot. If I plant 10 lettuce seeds in one of these trays behind me, I'm probably going to have 90-ish% germination rate. If I plant 10 seeds outside, just in the dirt, soil, whatever, then I'm probably going to have 40, 50%. So keep that in mind when you're sowing. You want to add a little bit extra, a few extra seeds, but not so much that it goes crazy. But I think a lot of people like direct sowing because it's some things you should always, like root crops, for instance. For the most part, you should always direct sow. You can transplant some, I will be honest, but for the average gardener, especially if you're brand new, I just would not mess around with that. Direct sow all of your your root vegetables and your greens. That's nice too. They come up, they're a healthy plant, they're beautiful, whatever. Okay, so let's get into our list. I kind of broke it up into a few groups because it's kind of a long list. Previous to April, the ground temperature has been really cold, and it is slowly warming up, but it's like slowly ramping. So if you're in between, like for instance, like carrots, and you're like, oh, I could seed carrots this weekend, I could seed carrots next weekend. Honestly, there isn't a wrong answer, but if you're wanting to wait a little bit, or depending on your microclimate or whatever, sometimes it's always best to just go ahead and give it that little extra time, because you're just going to get a stronger plant or reduced germination increased germination rate or reduced germination time. But anyways, to get into the list, so first I'm going to start with our root vegetables. Now, I'll tell you in advance, this is a pretty big list. It's basically everything but your heat-loving crops. So for root vegetables, you've got beets, carrots, parsnips, radish, and turnips. And so, and I think that root vegetables are amazing. They grow really quick and generally sprout in cooler-ish weather. Then there's also your greens. So like spinach, Swiss chard, arugula, Asian greens, kale, collard greens, lettuce, basically all of your greens. Then there's herbs too, like cilantro, which is a cool weather crop. I know a lot of people think it's a hot weather crop, actually prefers cool weather. Cilantro and dill, fennel, parsley, marjoram, summer savory, lemon balm, chives, scallions, and leeks, which leeks aren't necessarily a herb, but they fit in with chives and scallions. So And then last is kind of a random group. So you've got like your broccoli, your Brussels sprouts, your cabbage, your kohlrabi. If you haven't done peas yet, get those in because they definitely like the cooler weather. And of course, potatoes. If you haven't done potatoes yet, I would definitely get those in because they take some time or whatever, depending on if you're using them for new potatoes or regular potatoes. But so that's kind of the list. In all reality, you can experiment with different things and stuff like that. But when it comes to stuff that's either going to rot or needs a warmer temperature, and so by rot, I mean pumpkins, because also little critters might eat them. All critters, I guess, might eat them. Or like tomatoes, peppers, things like that. We don't really direct sow those in our area of the Pacific Northwest. But if you're wanting to, don't do that yet because it's just simply too cold. And then one other thing I wanted to say was towards the end of the month is when we can direct sow our runner beans. And so I would push that to the late, and then also, of course, depending on the weather at the end of the month. But when the soil temperature's warmed up, you want to get those planted. But those are another culprit because it's really rough because everything loves to eat runner beans. The little insects, the little critters, the birds, basically chickens, turkeys. Basically everything loves to eat bean seeds. And pea seeds, of course, and sunflowers and corn and all the good things that we would regularly consume. So you don't want to plant those too early because and I've done this, and we're all check and nothing's coming up, and I realize that they've just all been eaten. So leave that for later in the month when it warms up. And yeah, so quick video, quick list on things to direct sow. I hope that you found it helpful. If you're still watching, thank you. I appreciate it. I feel like I have a little thing in my throat. But anyways, so I will let you get to it and start working in your garden. Hopefully it warms up for us. And happy gardening. Bye.